Finally, guys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, time has come. Long overdue this video. I've been trying to hold back as long as I possibly can. I don't feel I can hold back anymore. But this is going to be the new Alphaverse Auto V10 build guide. Okay, we're going to be going right from the scratch today. Rest assured, this video will be broken down into chapters. And you're definitely going to have to come back and revisit certain sections of this. But I'm going to talk you through an entire setup from beginning to end on Alphaverse. So, but before we begin, I am not going to discuss installation of Linux or any nuances along that, because it will vary from whatever provider you're going to be using, and this really isn't a video about installing Linux. But there are a couple of changes that I have done to this build to try to make it a little bit easier for you. So let me show you. So I've done a little bit of preparation work beforehand, but before I come on to that, I want to show you, I've been running now with 3 test accounts on new Alphaverse Auto, where it does automatic withdrawals and deposits to a centralized wallet address, and no longer does tipping. Works really well. I've been running it for a few days, ironed out a number of bugs, and I think I've done like 9 updates, and I've recently done an update in the last 20 minutes actually. It's all looking good. It's all looking good. I'm finally kind of happy with where the build is and the functionality, and despite that only showing there was one bust, they actually all bust. And I was just testing with 85 balance, 644 recovery pot, which is in the central wallet that's been shared across these, and yeah, it ran really well. You can see this one here ran a considerable number of bets. Right, so prerequisites. I'm going to be asking you to install Ubuntu server and Ubuntu desktop. Before, we only used to use Ubuntu server, and there's been a couple of changes since 2204. Yeah, in the way that network is being managed. So I really want to make this quite simple and easy for you. So what I suggest is, if you go to Ubuntu, go to the downloads page and get those ISOs. Let me show you the page. So when you go to ubuntu.com, you go /download. Like I said, put all these prerequisites in a document. So I try to make it easy as possible for you. So we're going to download the desktop, and we'll just get the latest one, this one here. And for the server, we're going to go do exactly the same. We're going to get the latest version of the server here, and you're going to install those. On the server, you will see that I have allocated 8 gigabytes of RAM and 4 virtual CPUs, and for storage I've allocated 100 gigabytes. I've done just a vanilla install. I've done nothing to it, guys. It's just got Ubuntu installed. The only things that I have done is I've updated it to make sure that it's patched, updated, yeah, it's fully up to date. And same for Ubuntu desktop. If I just show you that, again, it's a vanilla install, and when you do the install, you're going to make sure that you choose the minimum install. And I just made a couple of changes to this. So I removed Firefox, wasn't needed. I installed Chromium instead of Firefox, and the reason I installed Chromium is because Chromium will allow you to install Chrome extensions, and I put 2 Chrome extensions in here, one for Google Authenticator, which you may find useful later on, because you may want to set this up with that particular stake account, and it's quite handy having an authenticator in there. And I put TronLink as well, and that is as far as I got. And the only other final thing that I have done, which is relevant to me, because the hypervisor that I'm using is Citrix Zen Server, I have also installed the hypervisor integration tools. So basically I've got 2 vanilla installations. For the server, I'm going to keep it as is. That's the first one we're going to be working on. But on the client, I'm quite happy with this build. So what I'm going to do is shut this down, and I'm going to convert this to a template. So when I convert that to a template, that means I can use that to deploy multiple clients. But I'm just going to deploy one, and we will end up deploying another template, because I just want to, this is just a template for basically Linux. Nothing's installed in it yet. No Alphaverse, no nothing. Right, I'm going to leave that churning away, and we're going to come over to my server build. Yeah, and the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get this server up and running. Building a server is the quickest and easiest task out of all of what we're about to do. Most of the work happens on the client, and what I do, I keep a list of all of the commands, and I put it in a PDF for you, and I make it nice and easy for you. It's just make sure the server is fully patched. So I'm going to log in. Now, for this purpose of this testing, because these servers will be deleted, So I'm going to share everything here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I don't really want to blur anything out. So the username and password for this setup is user, and the password is password. Okay, and we're going to run sudo apt update. We're just checking to make sure there's no more updates. Right, just to be sure, I am going to reboot this. Okay, I've rebooted in. I've just run the checks again. There's no more updates to be run on this particular machine. So we've got those first two commands out of the way. And we have a few tools to install. One is NetTools, so we can run an ifconfig. The other one is Node.js. The other one is SSHPass, which we're going to use. And final one is JQ. And in fact, we can put those all in one command line. So there we go. We've got sudo apt install NetTools, Node.js, SSHPass, and JQ. Sorry. Right, now they're installed, we're going to download and install NVM. I switched over to PuTTY, guys, because yeah, it's easy to work with. Now you have to log out and log back in. I'll put that in here. And we need to run these two commands, NVM install node and NVM use node. Let me do that. Right, and now we're ready to clone Alphaverse. Right, from here we just go into Alphaverse Auto. We need to modify the bin folder so that they're all executable. So we use chmod for that. So we add in chmod plus x, and then it's bin star dot sh. We would know if that worked. If we did an ls under the bin folder, they should all be green. So that means they're all executable. Well, I pre-populated some of the things we need to do from here onwards. So first we need to go into the Alphaverse Auto folder, and we are here. And the first step we need to do is we need to remove the current package.json file, because the way that it's been set up on Alphaverse is that there's a package.json file for the client and there's a package.json file for the server. So what we have to do is we basically have to remove the package.json file because that's for the client, and we have to rename the server package.json to package.json. And then we can go through these commands here. So we're going to install the latest network packet manager, or no packet manager, sorry. And we're also going to run a little tool that installs it's an update check tool. Okay, this gives us the ability that we can now run a command called NCU. So it's network packet manager check update NCU-U. So if there's any dependencies in your package.json file that need updating, like they do near here, this -u command does update them. So we needed to run that. It means when we run an npm install now, these will be updated to the latest version. Okay, we're going to do the same. Just go on and upgrades, make sure there's nothing needs doing. Right, we're nearly there, guys. There's this one last command. It's quite a long one. This command here, this is used for the get IPs screen. So if you're using VPN, we're using Puppeteer, and Puppeteer uses a headerless version of the Chromium browser. So we need to make sure it's got all the right libraries installed. This took me a time to work this out, so you just got it as one command here. Pretty quick. And what we're looking for, there's this extra command here. What we're looking for is to make sure we can check that it did work, because the expect we want to be found here is not found. Right, believe it or not, that is the server nearly built, actually. So we need to go to a website. I will show you that. That is this website here. When you come on here, so passwordgenerator.net, I'll go put that on there. You need to go to the old version. The reason we can't go into the old version is because you can't create a 64 character password. So I wanted to go to the old version. I'll put that link here. And basically we are going to create two passwords. The only thing we need to make sure is the first one is going to be 64 characters long. And I'll explain what these are going to be used for in a moment. And make sure this little checkbox is enabled where it says exclude special characters. Include this as well. Exclude these as well. Ambiguous characters. So make sure these two are checked as well. And this should create us a 64 character password, but it has done. So we're going to put that in a notepad, and we will refer to that in a moment. That is our first password. I'll move that out of the way. And we need to do exactly the same again now, but this time just do 22 characters should be enough. Generate a password. And these are going to be our two passwords that we're going to be using in our server and client config. Okay, and it's time we went to that now. So open up a WinSCP session to your server, and under Alphaverse Auto, you're going to see two files. You're going to see client config, which we're going to cover a lot more detail. you're going to see server config. So the first thing we need to do, we need to populate out the top two fields here. So this auth token is that 64 character password that we created here. So this one here is going to go in here. The master host will be http:// and the name of your server, Alpha-Auto server, and it's port 3000, so it's :3123. Then we can save that. And if we go into the server config, the auth token needs to be put in there. And then we need to specify a name. This is the name you use when you log into your web page for this. And we're just going to call this one user. And we're going to put in that 22 character password under here where it says basic authentication. You'll see that in action very soon. And while I'm here, I'm just going to change this because I know, just for the purpose of testing, the recovery amount 644, but we'll definitely cover that later. That is all we need. The server is actually probably ready to go now. Now, one final check we need to do is that we need to make sure that the server can talk to itself. And there's it can, yep. But it's always best to edit a host file. Yeah, it didn't have it in there, so I'm going to manually put it in there. So for me, I'm going to keep the loopback address in there as well, and I'm going to delete these files here. You don't need these IPv6 addresses, so Control and K can just delete all those lines. Now hopefully I am going to get rid of that. Keep the localhost as a loopback, resolve into the right IP address now. Okay, so we know that this can definitely talk to each other. So fingers crossed, this should work. So if I went bin restart server, let me put these in the instructions, and if all going well, if I go into the server now, screen-r server, it's running. It is running. Right, we can test this. Okay, it's looking promising. So we said the username was user, and the password is that 22 character password as I was talking about earlier. So we come back to that. Bingo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it running. You've built the server. I suppose there's one other thing we need to run. If we come out of this screen and if we run the command .bin/restart get IP server, hopefully this works fine. If we go into that screen, screen-r get IPs, capital IP, that's running as well. That's not relevant till later on, but it's always best to have it running on a server all the time. Right, if you got this far, congratulations, you have just built your first Alphaverse server. Or may not be your first Alphaverse server. This will be the first Alphaverse server under Alphaverse Auto. Now that's the easy part. Now we're going to go onto the client. We're going to go into the client build now, and this leads into the next section of the video. So again, this is a fresh install of Ubuntu server with just a very few slight amendments. Got rid of Firefox, replaced it with Chromium, added the plugins there for TronLink and a plugin for Google Authenticator. And that's all I've done. I've chosen a minimum install of the desktop, and it's got the specification of this box is 2 gigs of RAM, 2 virtual CPUs, and 30 gigs of storage. Shouldn't need anything more than that. Okay, I've just run a putty session into the client. Username is user, password is password. But we're going to start for the process here. So some of the bits are going to be very similar. So we're going to be doing all of this. Okay, I know there was no update, so I've done an update, an upgrade. There's no update, so I've got upgrades to apply. We're going to install these tools. I added one more tool there, was OpenSSH server, so I put that in the instructions. Like before, we're going to install NVM, and then we need to log out and log back in again. NVM install node, use node, clone Alphaverse. The desktop doesn't have Git installed, so I need to include that. Okay, git clone, cd into Alphaverse. So here we've renamed the package file, which we're not going to do. So we're going to continue with the rest of this. So I want the Linux bit to be pretty quick. You know, this shouldn't take too long. But bear in mind, this is going to be creating a template. So we're not going to be doing too many client configuration settings at the moment. But we will set up the basics for everybody. Likewise, we're going to make sure the bash scripts are executable. Just check that. Fine. Go globally install Node Packet Manager. Okay, and we're going to globally install npm check update so we can run that ncu-u. That is up to date, and then npm install. Then finally an upgrade just in case there's any upgrades. Right, the next bit, we need to make a modification to the client config before we can continue. So we can nano the client config. And what we need to do is we need to put in there the sudo password, because some of the bash scripts won't run unless that's in there. So mine is password. And we can add in here the API server, because again, some of the API scripts, so we know that's just the name of the server. I call that Alpha-Auto-Server, and I put my sudo password in there. So we're going to exit this and save it, and just to make sure we can ping that. No, we can't ping it, so we're going to have to modify the host file. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of all these entries apart from the localhost for the loopback address. So Control and K. I'm going to add one entry for the server. Now hopefully we should be able to ping the server, which we can, which is what we want in the template. When you're fully in production, you want every client to be able to talk to the server, but you need the server to be able to talk to every client. And that'll be around administration, where we're going to use SSH pass to do backups and things like that. So for the purpose of this template, we only need to add one entry. If the client can't talk to the server, then yeah, you're never going to get it running. Right, now we've got that, we technically should better run bin build agent. And what this does, it builds out the Electron proxy agent. Now we should better test this is working. And I think this is a good very good sanity check for you. So this command here, node client verify, will make sure that you are running against a GitHub repo that hasn't been played around with, guys. Yeah, before you run with this, guys, so I've noticed there's been a few clones of Alphaverse, so I have no idea what that code does do. And you're dealing in encrypted currency here, you really should be careful, okay? Yeah, don't use one of the clones, but to verify that you are running the right versions of the code, I have built in a checks and verification for you. So I've taken the hash of all the essential files, and this does a check against them, and if any of these fail, they'll come up red. So make sure they're all green. So when you run node client verify, that's going to give you peace of mind, guys, knowing that you're running a legitimate version of Alphaverse, not some fork with some other code that I have no idea what it's doing. I wouldn't trust anything else. So if any of these are red, it's got alarm bells, stop, come and talk to me. I put that command in the instructions. I'd say that's mandatory that you need to run that. Right, we need to do one more thing with this template. We need to make sure when we go into here, we go to startup applications, and we remove whatever's here, and we're going to add in the Alphaverse Auto bin folder and start Alphaverse agent.sh. This one here. You don't need to give it a name. That means whenever we start it, it's always going to launch. And we're going to make a couple of small changes as well, just to make life a little bit easier. So the first one here, we're going to set it up so that when we go into settings, right, click on privacy and security, and where it's got screen lock, because it's just annoying, turn off all of these. So make sure the screen is set to never blank the screen, and just turn off all of these, okay, because you're going to need that. And one final thing we need to do, we need to make a change to this file here, sudo nano etc gd3 custom.conf, because we're going to set it to automatically log in when every time you start the machine. Okay, and what I've done, I've already set this one here, but you need to remove the hashes so that it's not commented out, so it's not blue, it's white text. Enable, so it says automatic login, enable equals true, and here you're going to specify your username. From me, the automatic login user is going to be called user, but it'd be whatever you set yours to. And just exit that. Now, if all going well, if we reboot this, this should automatically log in, and it should automatically start the Alphaverse agent. Right, that worked fine, guys. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So obviously the agent failed because it's I need a VPN, and that leads nicely into the next section, because we're going to now going through the process of setting up VPN. Okay, I've issued most of the commands here. So when working with VPNs, it's not that difficult. I've done a lot of the work for you already, actually. So I'm using PIA. If you don't have PIA, please use this link here, because I'll give you a 30-day free trial. It is an affiliate link, but they don't pay me any money. What they do is they give me 30 days of free PIA access for every account that signs up. You don't have to use that, but I'd appreciate if you do. But you do get a 30-day free trial, which is worth it in its own right. Right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head on over to Discord. And in the Alphaverse section, under installation guides, I have put this file called vpn.zip. So you need to download that and unzip it. In there, it's the pre-compiled ciphers required that work with PIA, and we're going to be using OpenVPN. So I've got PIA working with OpenVPN, and I've modified all of the ciphers and everything. I've done all the hard work for you. You can look at those. So I've extracted folders here, and in here we've put all these different locations. And if we look at one, for example, these are all defined with all of the right ciphers required. And I've chained in the intermediary, I've chained the certificates so they do work. And I've specified here that it will look for a file called pass for the user credentials, which we're going to cover in a moment. So I've done a lot of work for you. So all you need to do really is just take a copy of this folder and put it in the root folder of your user. Okay, so it's important it sits under your root folder, because when we run the scripts to change VPN location, it's exactly looking at that location. So if we look under the bin folder, we look at the restart VPN script. You'll see it's using JCube, extracting information, getting the sudo password, but it will take a random location and it will restart the VPN, and it checks if there's no duplicates. That took me ages to put together, guys. Ages, bloody ages. So the important thing is we just simply got a folder called VPN. It's case sensitive. It has to be capital VPN. That's just the way I called it. And then we're going to go back over here. So we're going to run through these commands here. So I already have VPN, and I've already downloaded and uploaded the files for the VPN files, as you saw me do just now. So we're going to run through these. So we need some file to begin with. So I'm going to be using France as an example, and we are copying the France OVPN file and we putting it to the OpenVPN folder, but we renaming it to client.conf, because that's what I got specified in the ciphers. And then we need to create the file with a password. So it's sudo nano /etc OpenVPN and pass. The name of the file will be called pass with no extensions. And in here, you're going to put your PIA credentials. So I'm going to put mine in. So bear with me a sec. Right, I've put my PIA credentials in. Right, I've put my PIA credentials in. And we can continue. This should just work now. So we are enabling the VPN service. We're going to reload the daemon. And then we should be able to just start it. And if this works, I should be able to run a curl command to check what my IP address is. I know what my real IP address. Okay, I had to add one more command there. I wasn't aware on this desktop. There we go. That is VPN working. That is not my public IP. That's a VPN address. We're nearly at completion to converting this into a template, because we're going to deploy 3 clients from this template. Right, I'm going to populate out the information here. This is that 64 character password we did earlier. This is used when Alphaverse talks, when the client talks to the server, it creates a socket connection. And in that socket connection is embedded this auth token. So it's a level of security built within Alphaverse. That's the reason why it's really long-winded, yeah. Yeah, and if it doesn't have that auth token in its communication back to the server, it gets rejected. So never share that, guys. Never share that. Master host is HTTP. Right, I put in there the master host as well. So it's HTTP, name of the server, colon 3000. And we just need to finally populate out the server config. Actually, guys, you don't need to do anything on the server config. All you need to worry about is making sure that this is set right. For me, I know that's 644. The recover amount. You don't need to do basic auth user or the basic auth password. They're used by the server. Save that, and I think we are ready to convert this to a template. Okay, right, in order to convert this to a template, we simply need to right click. I'm going to get rid of these instructions now, guys. I'm going to hide these. I'm going to right click this, click on shutdown. I'm just going to delete the old template because we don't need that one anymore. And I'm going to convert this one to a template. Right click, convert to template. Now for me, I just keep a note of what PIA version, which account I got, because I got 15 PIA accounts. So for me, this is account 15. So I'll have a template for every single PIA account because I've got a different username and password in the pass file. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to deploy 3 images from this. And as you can see, guys, as I deploy them, I just put a note in the description which PIA account I'm using, just for ease of administration. So if I need to redeploy it, I know which version of the PIA client to use. I'll do the other 2. Actually, I have to do them one at a time, guys, because they're going to end up with IP conflicts if I don't. But I have made it pretty easy now using the desktop version. Changing IPs is no longer a problem. I'm going to show you how easy it is now. So I'm going to add these to my host file. So this one is going to have an IP address of 10.0.50.3. Right, because we're using the desktop version, it's very easy to change the IP now. So if you click up here, come down to wired, click on wired settings, and then click this little gear cog here, and we have the option to change it manually. See, we can disable IPv6 from here. That's a pain in the arse normally. We can set it to manual, and we said 50.3. Okay, that worked fine. I was able to ping by the host name, so I'm going to deploy the other 2 and I will bring you back. Right, that did not take very long at all, guys. So I deployed 3 clients from here. They've all got the right IP address now, and I can ping them all fine. And this is going to lead nicely into the next section. The next section is about how we configure the client config and all of the settings in there. We're getting very close, guys. Getting very, very close. So we're going to go through the first 2 steps here. So it says here, sign up to TronGrid, which is trongrid.io, and create a wallet, TRX wallet using TronLink. So just go through those now. So TronGrid is going to give us the API key. Okay, so you have to sign up. Okay, once you created your account, you need to verify it. Okay, once you get successful registration, it's really straightforward here. You don't need to link any wallet address. Click on skip. And all we're going to do here is go to API keys and create an API key. I just create an API called Alphaverse. Once you've done that, just click on this button there where it says check, and that will give you the API key there. And that's going to give you our first key bit of information, which is the API key that's going to go into the config. So that is going to go this one here where it says Tron API key. That's the information there. So we're going to put that in a text file. Right, now we've done that, all we need to do is go to the next section, which is said sign up to, it says create a wallet. We're on tronlink.org, and what we're going to do is click on install now, extension, Chrome Web Store, and we're going to add it to Chrome. So once that's been installed, all we need to do is just create a wallet. Okay, now we have a wallet. So we have the second key piece of information. So when you click on here and just click on receive, we have got the wallet address. So that's going to be your shared wallet. And that is going to go here, the withdrawal address. So far we've got the Tron API key and we've got the withdrawal address. So the only 2 other bits of information we need is the private key, and I'll show you how to get that, and the deposit address is going to be the address that we get. It's going to be individual per account that we will get from stake. So I'll show you how to get the private key. So when you click on your wallet, go back to the main page, click on these 3 dots here, and click on export account, and one of the options will be the private key. So we're going to make a note of that. Okay, now that I've got the private key, and that private key obviously is going to go here, which says private key. And the last thing we need to get for this particular account, what I would do, I would put this in my template, so you don't have to do it every single time. Like the withdrawal address would be the same, the private key would be the same, and the API key would be the same. The only thing that would be unique is the deposit address for every single account. Now the top deposit address will be when we go into stake and we go to wallet and we click on deposit, and there's our deposit address, and that's the fourth and final piece of information that we need to complete our section on the wallet configuration. Right, the next sections are just going to be the information that you're going to get from the casino. So your account username and your account password, you should know quite easily how to get. We've set the currency to TRX. Now the only bit that you probably need to know is one is how to get your API key, which is the easiest. So settings, API, and you can click on reveal and you'll get your API address, and that's going to be unique per account. Now to get the two-factor secret, it's slightly more tricky. When you go to security, when you enable two-factor authentication, you'll be shown just once and only once the two-factor secret. Now if you've already got two-factor enabled and you don't have your two-factor secret, you'll have to disable two-factor and then re-enable it, and it will show you in that one instance the two-factor secret. And that is all we need, and that will populate the entire config. So we've got the username, API key, the stake account password, the two-factor secret. We've got the common withdrawal address. We've got the deposit address, we've got the private key, and we've got the Tron API key. That is all you need. It's not that difficult. Like if you do get stuck, just reach out to me or the community. There are plenty of people that will help you. So if it isn't obvious at the moment, it's set up in a way that we have one wallet address shared across all accounts. Right, early on we created 3 new machines from the template. So these 3 accounts here have already populated out the config, the client config. So I've got all of the correct details in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy those over to this machine, each of these machines, and we should be almost ready to go. This should just work. Okay, as an example, I've done the first one. So I've got the auth token, I've got the master host, which is Alphaverse Auto, I've got the username, I've got the API key, I've got the password, I've got the two-factor secret, I've got the currency defined as TRX, I've got the bus threshold defined on a version 8 of Baccarat code is 20.5 with an 85 start balance. I've got the recovery threshold set as 85, so that's a start balance. I've got the sudo password. In this instance, the password is password because you know what it is. This will all be deleted by the time you see this video. We're not running in simulation mode, so we can ignore the simulation settings. We set the API server to Alpha Auto server. I've got the withdrawal address, which is the shared TRX wallet. I've got the deposit address, which is unique to this account. I've got the private key, which came from the tronlink.org wallet when I exported the private key. And I've got the trongrid.io API key, so I can save that. And I just need to do the same for the remaining accounts, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're getting close to the end of this video now. I've successfully deployed the 3 clients. They are running fine. I've tested them. They're all working fine. Nothing is wrong. Right, I'm going to pause this. And that's going to lead me into the final chapter of this video. One of the most common questions I can see within Discord that people that want to deploy Alphaverse is the question, where they're going to run it, what infrastructure, where do they use a VPS, how are you going to do it? So technically there's nothing stopping you. If you wanted to test Alphaverse today, you could go off and you could, provided you got a reasonable spec for PC, you could install Ubuntu, the server and the desktop on VirtualBox. So you can use VirtualBox. Now I use VirtualBox on my local machine, but not for running Alphaverse. But I think it's a really good way of just testing ideas. Yeah, it's quite easy to download, install VirtualBox, and I'm not going to go through it in this video, but it may be a really good option for you to to try and test Alphaverse. So you can follow all these steps and install Ubuntu server on VirtualBox locally. And obviously, depending on the specification of the machine, the number of VirtualBox instances that you could run on there. Now, if you're going to get serious about this, you could run on a VPS, and there are plenty of VPS providers out there, but it's going to cost you money. I always think the best installation, and I think probably a more secure installation of Alphaverse, if you run it on your own equipment. And there are some real amazing bargains out there, and I'm just going to point out a couple of these to you. Now, I'm running off equipment like this. It's older generation HP servers, Gen 9. Gen 9 HP servers with 128 gigs of RAM should comfortably get you 50 virtual machines off one box. And if you could pick those up for like $130, around that sort of price, what an absolute steal. So you don't need to spend a great deal. It's amazing the amount of hardware that you can get for such little money today, because nobody wants these anymore. They're end of life. But these come with 2 CPUs, typically with 12, sometimes 16 core CPUs, with hyper-threading enabled. That's a lot of CPU cores that you get to play with. And 128 gigs of RAM, you're only going to allocate 2 gigs of RAM per virtual machine. You can get an awful lot of virtual machines off one of these boxes. And that is exactly how I run my Alphaverse. Just look for eBay HP Gen 9 128 gig. Shocks me. I'm not joking to you guys. I used to buy these when these first came out new, and I was paying over £10,000 a server. The fact that you could pick these up for £100, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that is a lot of horsepower for that. Way more than you're going to get off a desktop PC. You don't need GPU or anything like that. You just need CPU and memory. Now, the next question, if you're going to buy your own equipment, is you don't have to run Citrix XenServer. You could run alternative hypervisors. Citrix XenServer is not free, but to be honest with you, Citrix XenServer came from XenSource, from Oxford University. I've been up to meet those guys. It's a spin-off, and that is still available, and that's pretty much identical to Citrix XenServer. XenServer Citrix has been optimized to run Citrix virtual desktops and other bits and pieces. It's got other features that XenSource won't have, but we don't need any of those features anyway. So that may well be a very good alternative. Another really good alternative is XCP-NG. I can tell there's literally these, again, it's almost identical to Citrix XenServer as well. It's the same XenSource base code, because XenSource is open source, you see. And these are all free. These are all free. And the third and final one is Proxmox, is another really good alternative as well. Proxmox could be used as an alternative to Citrix XenServer. If I was building from scratch, I will probably use Proxmox or XCP-NG. It still missed me that you can buy so much compute resource for such little money. I think that is the most cost-effective way of running Alphaverse. Dabble with it, play with it, get it working locally machine, use VirtualBox. Once you're comfortable with it and you've got the right strategy and you're comfortable with that strategy, go off and buy a server or something. You don't have to buy these rack mount servers. They do something called an ML range, and they basically look like full tower workstations. Similar price, similar specification, and that may well be a better option as well. Well, I hope that's given you food for thought, and I also hope this video has been useful to you, because please recognise it's a huge amount of work for me to put this video together. Now, I'll put all these links in the description as well. There will be a PDF document that you can download with this as well. It's going to have all the commands in it, and obviously it's going to be up in GitHub as well. And if you get any problems at all, guys, just reach out to me in Discord. I will do my damnedest to help you, okay? I think that was comprehensive enough. If I've missed anything, let me know. But if not, good luck, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.